Hello and welcome to another edition of the Formula One Fans UK podcast, which is recording this time, right, Dan?
Yeah, we're recording this time, buddy.
Brilliant. We are being as well organised as possible. And I'm Reese, and I am joined today by, of course, Dan, along with.
Yanni.
And Tim?
We sat down 4.5 hours after the race finished to record this podcast, like we usually do. And we thought we thought confidently that the result's not going to change. And then as we've sat down to start recording, we've got a wonderful notification from Sky Sports News saying that the result will likely change because of the Aston Martin appeal. So I guess that brings us on to, stewarding in Formula One, guys. Is it still, a bit too inconsistent, or was the issue today the track limit enforcement itself?
The issue today is the drivers. And it's the drivers solely. I sympathise with the FIA for having drivers who cannot stay on track. And if Aston Martin believe that they are the only team on track, it seems that have stayed within the white lines for the whole race, then quite rightly they should be rewarded for that if that's what they have done.
I mean, Lawrence Stroll's team have, of course, launched the appeal. Lawrence Stroll being a white billionaire, there is no way he stayed within white lines his entire life.
Wouldn't it be funny if they got a penalty as well for not staying in the white lines? But I'm just thinking, maybe if people were moaning as much as Lando was behind Hamilton, everyone might have got more penalties, maybe.
What do you mean, like Hamilton was behind Norris as well, and Perez and Tsunoda and Sargent probably in De Vries, because he had a horrible race, Lewis Hamilton. His reason for not staying on the track was that he couldn't steer the car. But as Toto said, sometimes you just got to shut up and drive.
In that instance, Lewis, I love you, but you've got to drive a bit slower then, haven't you? If you were driving at a speed where your car can't stay on the track, then you have to sacrifice that lap time. If there was a gravel trap on the exit of turn 9 and 10 every lap, and you're having to go slower through those two corners because you'll end up in the gravel trap, then you're going to lose the places on the next straight because you're not going fast enough. It's not a thing to moan about that you can't keep it in the white lines. You just have to slow the car down.
That's it, isn't it? I mean, I actually made the comment during the race saying, how you could probably solve the issue with track limits. It's just if you had a thin, like they used to do in China and Malaysia, having that thin strip of grass or gravel, a car's width off of the track, just to deter the guys from going wide. Because if you go wide, you're going to stick a wheel in the grass or the gravel. And if you did that, I think you would solve this whole track limits nonsense.
Risk versus reward, isn't it? At the moment, they have no risk, high reward. If you have high risk, you're obviously going to try and stay a bit more than what they are now. But again, it's like Tim said, if you can't drive your car to the full and stay in the white lines, then you have to slow down or design your car better, Mercedes. One or the other.
Yeah, I was going to say it added to the race. It added an element of unpredictability. Obviously, if you stay between the lines, you'd be rewarded. But there were several drivers who potentially are going to be moving up a couple spots if this decision comes favorable for Aston Martin. So let's wait and see.
Do we know what the penalty chain is beyond a 5-second penalty?
So you have 3 times warning. 4th is the 5-second penalty, and then when you've done it 7 times in total, you go on to a 10-second penalty.
Yeah, so you get 3 more chances.
It is plus 10 seconds, by the way. It's not a case of 5 and then another 5. It's 5 and then 10.
Yeah. So, but you get 3 more chances before you get that 10-second applied.
So it's effectively 15 seconds max.
And then you get a 10.
It might go up again. I don't know.
Because if you've done that for 7 laps, it means that you've won in every 10 laps in the race. At Austria, you've gone off the track.
Well, it's not even 7 laps, mate. It's 7 corners.
Yeah, I think there could be some drivers getting higher penalties if we base it off of. Obviously, it affected qualifying as well. Perez paid the price most notably for it.
I'd say so. Also, of course, Hamilton in the sprint shootout, he felt the repercussions of it. What I would say though is, of course, there's all this that could change. I wonder. Just imagine if it had the repercussions of Max Verstappen losing his win because he picked up so many time penalties. through track limits that weren't applied. I mean, I hardly doubt it would happen because he looked like the one guy who was able to keep it on track all day, apart from Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll.
But I guess you drive more cautiously when you're 30 seconds ahead of everyone else. I guess you don't really have to worry about pushing. Just worry about the fastest lap.
Yeah, I think we can safely say that Max would have won the race because
absolutely,
even regardless of what penalty he might be given, if he has gone off the track multiple times, I mean, Perez is likely to get more penalties as well. And then it was another mile.
There's Leclerc in between, though.
Oh, Leclerc's good. Yeah.
Tell you who could benefit from this, though, my boy Sainz, because Perez was borderline getting a penalty.
But what if Sainz gets more?
Well, I don't know. If Sainz gets another, if Sainz had three more deleted, then of course he'll get a 10-second. But if he didn't, I'm trying to think if he did finish or didn't finish close enough within the standings that we're all going to change.
Personally, side note, I thought he was shafted by Ferrari in that first stint.
He was fucking spit roasted
he was so
by
much
team radio and Leclerc being the number one.
Everyone was going, Sainz has the DRS, so that's why he's staying behind Leclerc. It was the middle sector where he was so much quicker and raining all the time.
It's absolute joke. And they've done this 2 races in a row where Sainz has been the faster driver, but because they can't help, Leclerc's feelings because he's so depressed and he always can't catch, he can't catch a break in the car. And it doesn't apply to Sainz.
Basically French.
It's just, it's so annoying, man. I am so annoyed by it. That was Carlos's second place that the team robbed him of.
And then they fucked his double stack as well. Both of them were 4.5 seconds, weren't they? Even Leclerc's one was 4.5. So Sainz was 4.5 plus waiting to get into the box.
It was absolute. And the thing is, the virtual safety car came out and they could have boxed Sainz on the first lap and Leclerc on the second one. But they didn't have the awareness to do it.
Oh, it would have been very borderline for Sainz to make it into the pit lane. They were literally on the final corner, I think, as the VSC came out.
Tight.
It was
very, very tight.
You can drive inside that white line and then bail out a lot later, though.
Yeah, no, but I don't think the actual VSC line wasn't open yet. So
I think they've gone past it. Yeah, I think they've
gone past it.
I think when they played it up on like that shot of them going past, they'd already passed the pit lane.
It was too late, unfortunately. But they could have. Sainz said it himself. I was faster than Leclerc, so why didn't you pit Leclerc and let me stay out?
Yeah, well, that would involve Ferrari, getting strategy right 2 races in a row.
We gave them 1 week off, and now we're back to slating there.
The thing is, though, as a strategy department, Tim, you have one job.
Yeah, to plan for all eventualities.
Hey, right? It doesn't say good strategy department, just says strategy department. They don't specify if it's going to be good or not.
Ferrari strategy department.
I think they definitely threw away a double podium today with that strategy.
100%, yeah.
The Ferrari strategy is some days maybe good, some days maybe shit.
They're just there's more shit days than there's sometimes good, isn't there? At the moment, it's bad.
Don't. Well, as we started talking about penalties, we might as well talk about the penalties that we know of at the moment. And guys, forgive me if I have missed any here, but we'll run through them all together. We'll start with the first. Start off with the one standalone penalty from the race, which was Ocon's unsafe release. That was slam dunk, and
completely.
It really messed up Logan Sargent's race because he was actually. I thought that was probably Logan Sargent's best race.
Other than maybe Bahrain at the start of the season, he finished 12th, didn't he? And he got a couple of moves done in that race. But yeah, I would agree with that.
I think because when he came into Bahrain, it was like, this is the adversity sort of thing that was not there at that point. Now, of course, he's had a tough season. To come, where everyone's saying, you're really struggling in comparison to your teammate, you haven't got the upgrades on the car. To come in and put the performance in he did, I thought was really good. And the fact that he got a time penalty at the very end, that sucked.
It will be interesting to see him at Silverstone with all of the upgrades that Alex has, and to see where he shakes out in comparison to Alex, because he had some of them this week, didn't he? But not all of them.
Yeah, exactly. But the Ocon penalty, guys, I'm guessing you all agree, feeling that was fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The only issue with the Ocon penalty was that David Croft, rightly so, assumed it was a 5-second time penalty for track limits, which you could easily forgive him for in a race like this.
They were just being handed out like crazy.
Well, Danny, apparently are not enough for Aston Martin. Apparently they just
have you
wanted
got the
some
list
more.
of Have you got the rest of the list there, Reece, about who actually did get it?
I do have the rest of the list.
Because I lost track.
So, well, I tried to keep track. But if I just say before that, we'll go just touch on another penalty, the other standalone penalty, which was Tsunoda with his improper serving of a penalty. Now, something about Italian teams in Formula One. You have Ferrari's, Ferrari strategy, and then you have, the stopwatch at AlphaTauri, which once again sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit. And this time, they couldn't count to 5. That's the most embarrassing. Well, no, everyone else managed it, but AlphaTauri failed to count to 5. I couldn't believe it. I mean, how do you have that penalty? How?
Someone had it earlier in the season. Was it Aston?
Yeah, I know, but then it was Aston Martin, but they appealed it successfully because they said, yeah, we touched the car, but we didn't work
there
on
was
the car.
there was another person who didn't serve the 5 seconds earlier in the season. I
Was it Ocon?
want to say it was De Vries. Oh yeah, it was Ocon. It was Ocon in the first race, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't he not serve it twice, or was it just the once?
No, he
served it twice.
He's incorrectly served it once, and then he got caught speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah, when he came in to serve it the second time.
I say that, and another standalone penalty that we should probably talk about. Of course, you mentioned Nick De Vries at job memory. Running Magnussen off the track. Now, when you're a Dutch driver racing for a Red Bull team, I know you think you might be able to get away with that, but no, Nick, the rules are different here. You can't do what you did to K-Mag like you did today. That was ridiculous. And he did it last time out and got away with it, so I'm glad he got punished today.
Yeah, but that's the problem. They do it, they don't get punished, so they do it again. That's the whole reason Max was allowed to drive like a for like 4 years, because he didn't get penalised for it.
We're still gonna have to beep that.
No, I didn't say the word.
No. Didn't say the word. Oh, yeah, but you spelt it out. Well done. So no longer kids don't hear the word, but they know how to spell it.
Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Kids spelling, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. It's
all right. So
shit.
Shit's okay, but yeah, mate.
Yeah, by the laws of the internet, yes, it is.
Yeah, by the laws of the internet, shit is okay, but you can't call someone a C-bomb or spell out C-bomb.
Yep. Anyway,
I know
I do agree with Reece that De Vries just a mess. I don't know why they haven't suited. Did you see that Helmut Marko turned up in a race suit this weekend on Sunday morning? He could have ended up driving for either of his teams, couldn't he? Because he could have kicked Perez out of the car for being 15th, or he could have picked De Vries out of the car for being De Vries.
Perez, though, mate, what a recovery drive if he keeps that position.
I don't think so. I think that's what he should have been doing for the last 2 months.
He should have been doing it for the last. You're right.
Don't give him credit for driving the car to what the car should be. And if we know if that had been Max starting 15th today, he would have won the race probably by the same distance that he did, given the 2 safety cars. Perez was benefited by 2 safety cars. He massively benefited from the second VSC. No.
Yeah, Reece.
Well done for getting a podium.
How dare you?
Fuck me for trying to find some positives for Red Bull fans after we called Max a CU. Yeah.
Next Tuesday.
Right, hold on. In my defense, calling him that is not a new thing. I've been doing that since day one. Like, it's not.
I'm sorry.
They should be used to it by now.
He's grandfathered in.
That's like the Moors murderers going, yeah, well, killing kids. I know you heard about this one, but we've been doing it for a while, so it should be okay.
I think the thing we should take away from this the most is that I'm right.
I'm sorry. I was questioned on this earlier, and I think we need to talk about Max Verstappen.
Right.
Because today his drive was once again phenomenal. And I was asked, what's my actual problem with Max Verstappen? And I was like, you know what? If you set aside that the stewards let him walk all over them a couple of seasons ago with the battles of Hamilton, what has he actually done wrong? Because I think the major issues people have with him is that he is a cost cap champion, which wasn't his fault. He just drove the car. It was his team that overspent by $6 million, claiming it's on catering in the first year of a new, development period.
Hang on, 6 million? Didn't it turn out to be like 400,000?
No, that was Aston Martin.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, 6 million, 6.3 million, I think it was. What was the exact number? And he just drove the car. He didn't know that Christian Horner's telling them to gold plate the cutlery. It's a case of he just drove the car, and sure, he won the championship. Well, it's not his fault. Latifi is shit. He just drove the car, did his job, and the fact that he's had all the success on the back of the cost cap infringement, and the fact that of course in Formula One, if you keep the formula the same, you have a knock-on effect each season of how your car's developed. That's not his fault. So you can say, oh yeah, I don't like him because he drives for Red Bull. Well, you don't like Red Bull. You don't not like Verstappen. And yeah, him winning annoys you because you don't like them winning. The other one was you don't like him because he's father and his father tries to live for him. Now, yes, his father is a wife-beating piece of shit. But once again, it's not Verstappen's fault. Maybe we're all being a bit harsh on Max Verstappen.
No.
No. Should we go back to 2021?
Right. So
Max fans, I tried. Okay, I tried.
It starts off with the fact that he's an obnoxious piece of shit and his attitude stinks. He drives dangerously. You can't drive dangerously when there's no one within fucking a minute of you. So there's that.
A foot of you.
And the fact that he was willing to accept the championship title after all the controversy and knowing
he was a worthy champion that year.
You cannot blame him for accepting a world championship that he won within the races that were given in that season.
He won more races than Hamilton that year. I mean,
and that's without the Baku tyre failure with 2 laps to go, the collision at Silverstone that Hamilton could have been much harshly penalised for, where he still won the race. Yeah, I don't think you can blame him for accepting a championship that he won on a points per race value that he got like that.
I'm going to say, yeah, I get what you're saying about his comments and stuff and how he's entitled, overly entitled. I didn't like how he spoke about the Perez thing in the sprint race. I thought that, they were fighting each other just as hard as each other. Max tried to run Perez into the wall, not to try to run him into the wall, but, tried to squeeze him against the wall and then run him off the track at turn 3. Perez ran him off the grass onto the grass at turn 2. It was,
pretty much the same.
Apples for apples. And I'm just going to say Perez, I'm going to give him a lot of credit for how he handled wheel-to-wheel action this weekend. He said that the Max thing, maybe we were both over the limit, fair play. And then the Carlos thing, he said, that was hard but fair. And I really liked that from Perez this weekend. I thought this is, he said he's been struggling. He's not been in good form and he wants to bounce back. I hope he does bounce back. I know Verstappen's won the title, but hopefully now we might see some races at the front.
Possibly, but the thing is, I had a similar discussion with someone the other day. I just think he just gets, I hate to say this, but I think he gets the best out of the car, whether it be that it's designed around him more than it is Perez.
Checo,
but Checo has proved a few times in the past, even when they start 1-2, he still can't keep up with Max. It all lasts 4 to 5, maximum 8 laps, and then he's gone.
I'm sorry, mate, you say that. Baku might be the exception to the rule, but he did in Baku, go for toe and win that first race. And then there have been other races, Saudi Arabia, Max got close, but when Max got close, Checo turned it on, and every lap, was answering back.
But you're forgetting that Checo is king of the streets. So
wasn't in Monaco.
Yeah, but that's because he binned it in Q1.
Was it in Miami?
Miami's not a street circuit.
Miami is a street circuit.
It just exists.
Sorry, Miami's as much a street circuit as Saudi Arabia, mate. The roads don't, except for the only difference is that some of the roads they race on in Miami existed before the tracks existed.
Miami's more of a hybrid, I would say, because the first sector doesn't feel very street track-like. But
anyway, getting back to it, I have a list. Track limits penalties that I could keep up with. Hamilton, Sainz, Albon, Tsunoda again, Sargent, Magnussen, not to mention black and white flags for Perez and hilariously Hulkenberg. Although, Tim, you can explain the Hulkenberg one for us.
Yeah, so the Hulkenberg, he got his last warning before the black and white flag when the car started breaking down at turn 1. And then when he rolled off the track at turn 3, he got given the black and white flag for rolling to the zone where he could have his car taken off the track, and it was then awarded as they were rolling the car through the barriers. I know the FAA are trying to be consistent on this, but you got to give a guy a break sometimes.
And it sort of brings back to what we were talking about earlier. And the truth is, we were saying, oh yeah, if you had a bit of gravel there, you know, to Lewis Hamilton, you're going to have to slow down if you can't slow the car down. Well, the truth is, as fans, we would all much rather there be a bit of grass there and the guy has a risk of spinning out or has to drive slower through the corner than the guy drives too fast from the corner, and then we're trying to figure out 5 hours later what the race result is, because even the FIA don't know what the race result is because there's that many time penalties.
The argument that the circuit gives back on this one for Austria is that they host motorbike races within the weeks around the F1 race, and the motorbikes need the tarmac runoff at some of those heavier braking zones for their safety, they say.
We say that the heavier braking zone that I'm, more concerned about is that whole turn 5 and not turn 5, sorry. It's that turns 9 and 10, is it? Those last two corners. There's got to be a compromise you can make somewhere. There's got to be something we can do that's better than this track limits bullshit.
Isn't there what do you call it? A temporary solution that could go in, like maybe
sleeping policeman.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe that could be bolted in and then
That's a fair point.
unbolted.
I hate a sleeping policeman, but at the same time, if it stopped the drivers running wide, and if as soon as they were going too wide, they hit sleeping policeman, I would be more than for that.
But didn't they have that at Austria a few years ago, and then all the cars got damaged?
No, they had it at Monza on the exit of Parabolica.
That was when Alex Pizzoni got flown into the crowd, wasn't it? At Parabolica, which was a scary accident. So.
Yeah, but there's a difference. That was placed in the wrong position. That was placed in
and you had the one at Silverstone last year in the Formula 2 that launched. Who's the Williams driver? That's
Nissany.
Nissany launched Nissany.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that wasn't Schwartzman's fault, and that wasn't the Kurt's fault. That's because Nissany is an absolute waste of a seat in Formula 2.
Oh God! If you believe the rumor the other week, he was coming to Williams next season.
I know Sargent struggled, but you got to give Sargent 2 years.
Yeah. Williams have apparently been offered a substantial amount of money. Doralton Capital were offered 3 times what they paid originally, and they said no.
The sum was over, it's an insane amount of money. I think it was it over $1 billion they were offered? There's someone.
Yeah, they came out. It happened about start of April. Apparently, they were offered over $1 billion for Williams. And it was €1 billion, I think. Or the equivalent of €1 billion. So it's about 860-70 million pounds.
And what did they buy it for? 125 million?
200 and something, wasn't it? 240, 250?
And Danny, for your information, depending on how far along into the Biden administration they are, a billion euros is anywhere between, sort of $1.5 billion and $100 billion.
Isn't that just into the collapse of Europe as a currency?
Well, it's more how long Biden is in charge of that economy. But anyway, Danny, happy 4th of July weekend. We hope you're enjoying your barbecues while you can still afford charcoal.
Thank you. Really hot already. It's got to be over 90 degrees. Maybe for you guys, 36 Celsius outside, maybe 35, 36.
Sounds toasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's different, is it? It's the humidity. It's a different kind of heat. Yeah.
Oh, mate, you don't know heat. Danny, you don't know heat until you've done a plus 35 degree day in the UK. All right, that's all we're going to say. We have heat that's different to everywhere else.
Yeah, you start sweating the minute you're outside.
We were talking about all the penalties. Sonoda, have you ever seen? Well, no, I mean we have seen some pretty bad weekends, but I think that's probably one of the worst weekends I've seen from a driver. And it just so happens that he's had 2 shit weekends in the race in the races where I gave him a 2-week contract in fantasy. So
Can we? Where did Sonoda? Wow, Sonoda finished behind De Vries. That's how bad his weekend was.
18th, right? 18th.
Yeah, I hadn't registered that, and he had 4 pit stops. Oh, because of the 2 penalties.
So I mean,
and 3 altogether.
No, it was just he had 4 pit stops. I think it's because he had damage. He on lap 1, didn't he?
Of course he did.
And then he had the 5-second time penalty where he served the penalty. Then he had the 10-second penalty for serving the penalty incorrectly, and then he got another 10-second penalty towards the end. Finished behind De Vries, so he was so far behind the F1 field, he actually finished in Formula E.
I love how we just another Formula E jab.
It has no future. Get rid of it.
Who's leading it right now?
I don't care. I don't even know who's in it.
I mean, the last time I knew who someone was in or out of Formula E was, I think, when Felipe Massa was still in it, and that's when
I know that Giovinazzi went there, but even he upgraded to becoming a fucking Le Mans champion.
Hey, good for him.
Shit, I think the last time I looked into Formula E was when Toto Wolff's missus was involved in it.
Well, I think Sam Bird's in it, but that's Oh, of course, no, you've got who's the angry one, Tim, who always whinges and bitches?
The one who got kicked out of the Red Bull Academy.
Lawson?
No.
Tictum Tantrum.
Dick Tantrum. Dick Tantrum.
Oh, was it not the Twitch guy?
Dan Tixon.
Yeah, he's the one who got kicked out of the Red Bull Academy for being racist?
No, that was Yuri Vips.
Oh, it was Yuri Vips, yeah.
What was Tictum's then?
Tictum got kicked out for coming on Twitch, that he said.
Tictum got kicked out because he kept bitching and whining, and he whined so much that even Red Bull said, "No, you're whining too much."
He was a fast driver, though. It's a shame. It's a waste of the talent.
He was a fast driver when he could and he's quick in Formula E when he knows how to manage the battery of his car. He lost places on the finish line because he ran out of energy. I'm sorry, it's not anyone else's fault but his own. I'm sorry about that. But yeah,
I didn't know that.
Anyway, that's our yearly Formula E quota used up, talking about actual Formula E and not insulting.
I have a question. Do they still change cars, or do the cars race the whole?
But they now have cars which race the whole distance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not that bothered, but I just wanted to know.
They finally caught up with Elon Musk in that sense. They
finally caught up with Le Mans 24s from 1910.
No, I'm sorry. They finally caught up with the Toyota Prius.
Does that have a range of 200 miles? Oh no, they probably don't even run that far in Formula E. Yeah,
it's shorter, isn't it, an E-Prix? Either way, yeah. Anyway, back to Formula One.
I think there's not much more to say on penalties, really, is there? It's just drivers learn to drive in the white lines, and if your car won't turn into the white lines, then slow your car down. I think next year they should you get 2 warnings, and if you do it a second time, you get a 5-second penalty, and that will stop them all doing it. Well, it depends, because Lando got one added to his allocation of track limits warnings when he ran wide and clearly didn't gain an advantage. So there is some, it needs to be worked on, or just stop racing on motorcycle tracks. I like the A1 ring as much as Dan says it's about corner, straight, corner, as you will find out one day in a podcast that's coming up where we will be talking about how we're going to fix Formula One. Talking about the F1 calendar. Will Austria make it onto the new calendar that we devise? You'll have to listen to that podcast to find out. And whilst we're advertising things, we might as well bring up show sponsor, Apex Tracks. For all your 3D printed track wall art needs, head to apextracks.com. That's apextraxs.com.
Well done, Reese. Again, you managed to get it right. I'm impressed. That's like a good that is a good 3 or 4 in a row now where you've not had to redo it.
See, Ferrari, you can do something right more than 3 or 4 times in a row. You can do it more than once in a row. Or in your case, Ferrari, you need to be able to do it more than 0 times in a row.
They got it right in Canada.
They're good till the summer break.
How many races? It's Spa's before the summer break this year, isn't it? Danny mentioned the summer break there.
I'm
sure they bought one of the races that used to be after.
No, Zandvoort got brought forward, did it not? Or maybe it's not.
I think it's Zandvoort.
Open Formula One. It's going to happen. We're going to have to open up the freaking calendar in the middle of a podcast again.
That's all right. I'm doing it.
Sunday. No, Belgian GP is the last race before the summer.
Yeah. So they moved that forward to the...
It starts at Zandvoort.
Yeah, which, should we mention events at Spa?
Yes, we should. Sad events. Another life taken too soon. And, of course, question marks will be raised once again over safety at Spa. Tim, Do you want to add some more to this,
Yeah,
please?
so on Saturday morning before the World Endurance Championship race at Spa, for the 24 hours of Spa, Dilano Van Toff, who, again, it's another Alpine young driver, so that's the second Alpine young driver that they've lost at Spa in recent years. It was not far from when we lost Hubert a few years ago. He was driving in a Formula Regional race. I think it was the equivalent of a Formula Europe. But he was a Formula 4 Spanish champion a couple of years ago, and he was very highly rated by a lot of members of the grid. And unfortunately, he was involved in an accident in the rain. Now, I have seen the footage. It's not the nicest to watch. I wouldn't recommend you go out there and look for it. But again, it's another death of Spa. It was further down the Kemmel Straight than the Antoine Hubert crash, and it was very different circumstances with the way the cars came back across the track. But it does, again, it's two young lives, young talented drivers who have been lost at Spa in recent years.
Yeah, of course. Lance Stroll spoke about this on Saturday in his press conference in the media pen after, and of course, I mean, words that I think we can all understand it. Where first he said it breaks my heart what happened, and I don't think there's a motorsport fan out there who doesn't feel the
there was
same way.
A bit of a statement from Max this morning in some of the pen interviews when he was coming into the track as well about it, saying how sad the sport was. Obviously, racing's a family like no other. When you're part of the racing family, whether you're a fan, whether you're a driver, whether you're a team member, they look out for each other, and it does affect them, especially if you're involved in racing when you pass away through an accident or through an incident on track. So it's a real sad moment for everyone involved, and goodness knows what the heads of that Alpine driver academy must be feeling to have it happen them twice at the same circuit in a couple of years.
I just want to finish that Lance Stroll quote. Rouge at Spa needs some looking into. Every time we go through, there's an accident waiting to happen. Today it happened again, and we lost a young kid. Do you feel, as classic as it is, that Eau Rouge and the Spa layout does need to change?
I think, like Tim said, this is the second incident we've had in as many years.
Well, it's about 4 years ago, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, but
2019.
At what point does nostalgia trump safety? You can't help but look at it and it be amazing, but we're looking at cars that are faster, heavier. If something needs to be done, it needs to be done.
So I will say in the circuit's defence here, where Hubert was passed away, where he was thrown back across the track, they have actually redesigned the whole section of wall, the runoff area, and that section of runoff and that wall was not involved in this accident. The accident was much further up the Kemmel Straight. It was beyond Radion on the top of the hill. It was much further onto the actual straight section on the run up to the Com, if you know the Spa layout.
Yeah.
But in those conditions, I would be questioning why you've started the race. I think it was stopped once and they then restarted it in those conditions. And if you see the footage, even from a camera at the side of the track, like a phone camera, you cannot see through the spray. And there was, once he was off the circuit and coming back across, there was no way of avoiding him if you're the other driver. Because remember, it's not just the driver who passes away in these incidents, it's the drivers who hit him or the drivers who make contact or the drivers who avoid him have to live with what's happened as well, and they have to go forward and try and in most cases they'll go in and try and have a racing career, which you can't have that in those situations. So I think actually, as well as the track layout and what can be done at Spa, the stewarding and the conditions that we race in at places like Spa, where we know there's high speed corners and straights, needs to be reviewed as well.
Yeah, I think in Formula One we often overlook how dangerous, and of course IndyCar as well. These the top levels of motorsport, we overlook how dangerous motorsport can be sometimes because we are used to the highest level of safety. But as good as you try and make the safety in these lower series, it just never will seem to be at the same level.
You would need to have the money at in all the lower
Yeah.
series, wouldn't you, to make it as logic dictates? But the logic is that the slower speeds would protect you in a lower series, but it doesn't work that way. The speed of a lower series, if you're in an F2 car, for example, coming along that Camel Straight in the dry, you're still going 180, 185, maybe 190, and the difference between that and 200 when it's a life-threatening situation isn't much.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, for example, we talk about like when a driver blinks flat out in a Formula One car, they miss 20 meters of track. A lot can happen in 20 meters, and like Tim says, the difference between the 10 difference of 10 miles an hour at 200 or 190, it's nothing. You can't do anything to act about it, and it's happening so soon before another major event there in Formula One. Do we foresee a full calendar or a full support series cast for the races in Belgium, or do you feel that some may not race there due to any safety concerns?
I don't think we have enough time to change it. I don't think there's going to be any changes by the track, and I don't think there's going to be any changes to the schedule. I think everyone's just going to have to be more cautious. But like Tim said, it was further up, and they shouldn't have been racing in the first place in that weather. If you can't see, like, you can't stop, you can't turn, you can't, like, he was literally just a target. So I think it obviously, it needs to come down to that thing of, like, is it safe to race? By the footage that we've all seen, it clearly wasn't.
I think we always want to go racing, but sometimes, as much as it can frustrate people, you need to make decisions like Formula One did. Of course, they handled it poorly with the 2 laps behind the safety car to force a race result. But where you go, we're not going to go racing. And sometimes you just got to accept that that's the right decision.
Also, thinking about lower series, not even racing at Spa anymore. There's several other tracks that are available. Take some of these dangerous ones out. Would be possible. That's two crashes in 4 years that were not F1 crashes. We saw F1 last year, 2 years ago, when they pretty much just ran behind the safety car because of almost similar conditions. I think it'd be best not to have feeder series there anymore and just stay with F1. I know that's not helpful for the track because it needs to make its money, and it needs other series to come through it. But
WEC, sports cars, those guys, yeah. The truth is, of course, you as a young driver, you gain so much from being at a support race because you can learn so much from the other series that are taking place, and you can network and you can boost your career by being there. But yeah, what can you do when it's, maybe we just say, conditions, maybe you can't, maybe the stewards might have thought, yeah, you can race a WEC car in these conditions, but you can't race an F4 car in these conditions or a Formula Regional car in these conditions. And maybe, I don't know how these events are run, if it's the same team of stewards or the same race director there across a whole weekend managing each series, but maybe if not, each series needs its own race director who understands the series better to make these judgment calls.
Danny did between the two of you, I think you have raised the point of you might not have to get rid of all feeder series at Spa, for example, if we're taking Spa as the example in this instance, because I feel like there is an element of safety in the sports car racing side of it. So, for example, you had the Porsche Super Cup at Austria today, and usually it's a bit crashy, but it generally seems to be safer in those situations than an open wheel or an open cockpit race car.
Yeah.
So you might not have to get rid of completely the full supporting series of street teams there, or you just say if there's any level of water or wetness on track that's going to cause any kind of spray, you don't race the lower series at all, and go there with that risk.
You do need to race in the rain because you need to learn to race in the rain.
But I'm talking about Spa specifically.
Spa specifically, maybe we have to just lower the threshold of what rain is raceable. Yeah, I think we'll wrap up this little bit here. Just just to give a lot of credit to the team at MP Motorsport, who with everything going on, I thought put a phenomenal performance in between them as a team. To go through something like this and continue, although of course you're at a different circuit in Formula 2, it's not easy. Like we were saying, motorsport's a family. So to go out there today and in the feature race in Austria to get a P2 with Dennis Hauger, I thought was, was it Dennis Hauger? Was it P2 they got with Dennis Hauger? Just hang on,
in Formula 3, wasn't it? Not Formula 2.
Formula 2 or Formula 3? In 1-2.
Sorry, it wasn't. It was in the sprint race. They got a P2, so it was on the same day. After their drivers just passed away.
I know I've made a mess of saying it, but the sentiment remains the same. To go out there and put such a strong performance in it really, you had to take your hat off to the team at MP Motorsport, because that would have been a tough thing to do. So to stay professional, winning and all that, if you're a driver within that academy, you should be filled with confidence that you are surrounded by good people.
Extension to that, credit to Richard Verschoor, who won the Formula 2 race this morning, and explained at the end that he was good friends with the family of the driver who passed away. To go out there and do that when your family friend has just passed away, and then to win the race, it shows the mentality and the professionalism of these drivers, even at a young age.
Similar to Leclerc winning 2019 Spa after his friend Hubert died.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That was pretty mental.
We'll talk about the sprint races, shall we, or sprint day? I really liked sprint day. I thought it was a lot better than Baku sprint day. The choice of the track felt better. Of course, the weather helped, but qualifying was definitely interesting. I like how sprint day qualifying, no matter what happens, it seems to be about everyone is just having to stay on track and set the right time rather than just doing one time here or one time there. That, I think is a way of going forward. And maybe we want to say, hey, you have to go out on this fuel load or this weight of fuel on this tire in sprint qualifying to make it feel like that. Or, maybe Formula 1 does need to bring a qualifying tire in that would allow cars to stay on track and keep improving and maybe go for 2 runs. And, that can make qualifying better. But I love sprint day.
I think someone has forgotten 2007 when they had that bullshit with all the fuel levels that you had to have before and after qualifying. Yeah, and you just ended up with people running around for about 10 minutes just doing medium time laps, which of course gave us the Alonso Hamilton incident at Hungary.
That's true. I think, I did overlook that. But what I'm trying to say is sprint qualifying, I absolutely loved it. And the sprint race itself, I thought was fantastic entertainment.
I think just make the regular sessions in F1 qualifying for the actual Grand Prix, make sessions 2 and 3 shorter. Give us that kind of excitement for a Q3 where if you make a mistake, you might not get another lap.
That, or, make the sessions shorter, but slide another session in there. Maybe go like IndyCar, where you have that final shootout between the top 6. I think that would be a really interesting one to do, especially with how the field is spread at the moment in Formula 1. Imagine if you said, okay, we're going to have 4 qualifying sessions. We're going to lose 5 drivers, 4 drivers. Or no, say, lose 5 in each session. And then the last session is like a one lap shootout for pole position between the top 5 drivers. That would be phenomenal, I think. If you shortened the sessions and added an extra session in for the main qualifying.
And we should make them do it all on the purple ultra soft tire.
Bring back purple.
Yeah, qualifying tyres. This is what I've been calling for ages.
So it just degrades so bad.
I think I'm looking forward to when they finally get to run a session where everyone has to go hard, medium, soft. That I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, but that means that even on the hard, the Haas tyre would fall apart after about 2 laps.
What I'd say is there's been some talk about how do you solve the track limits issue, and a few drivers have come forth and said single lap shootout qualifying at the end. Everyone has one guy speeds up, next guy goes out.
Would that be just for Q3? Are we saying?
I don't know. Maybe it worked for Q3, but you know what? If you did it with that top 5 shootout idea, that would be brilliant. I think if you said, lose 5, 5, 5, and then you go to your top 5 shootout, and then based on the order that you went in the order you finished in Q3 for your top 5 shootout, you can choose where you go. So say Max Verstappen went and he was first, and he said, "Oh, I want to be the second driver to set my lap time or whatever." I think that would be a way of going about it, because of course, if you do single lap shootout, you need to have a fair way of drawing the order.
Wouldn't you just always go last though?
Not necessarily. If
Weather.
track sets best.
weather
Yeah,
makes a
weather.
difference.
Give you because remember when we had single lap qualifying before, I know it only lasted for a year or two, but there was a couple of races where the drivers at the back of the championship order would get really good weather, and the drivers at the front of the championship order would get the rain or get the lightning or get the storm coming, and it reversed the entire grid.
Danny, how did you feel about the sprint Saturday? Was it something you were a fan of, and are you liking the new format more than the old format for sprint races?
No, I have Hamilton's attitude towards a sprint race, where he's kind of passes them over. My downside of it is just availability of the sprint times. As an American and having those weird times when we have sprint shootouts, I can't pull up. I had the times here listed, but they were all like around 6, 7, 8, 9 in the morning, and they're just very easy to be missed compared to like the 2 o'clock times like Japan and Asia, potentially if you had sprint races out there. But no, just more domination by Red Bull in the sprint races as well. Just continues everywhere.
It happens when they have the best car. It's hard to stop the domination when no one else is near it.
Wasn't it like 21 seconds in 22 laps or something? Wasn't it? You finished ahead.
It was something like that. 24 laps, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's like 21 seconds ahead in 24 laps. Like you taking the piss
of Perez. Of course, Perez did have to clear Leclerc, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was past Leclerc, not that long into the race.
But Leclerc's also slower than Sainz, and Leclerc seemed to hold everyone up from getting the result they wanted this weekend. Sorry. But sorry, Dan, just going back. So does that mean with sprints, I know you say you're against, but do you prefer the sprint Saturday format, or do you wish that we went back to the sprint acted as like a qualifying and you had the FP2, which was a tyre test?
Yeah, I prefer that one. Just prefer that one a little more right now.
That's interesting because I really like having that qualifying session on a Saturday morning in place of FP2. I know from an American time standpoint for Danny, it probably doesn't really work because it's probably on at 4 or 5 in the morning. But
that's why I asked the question.
But from a viewer's perspective, if I'm going to the racetrack on a Saturday, do I want to see FP2 or do I want to see a second qualifying session? I want to see another qualifying session and another race.
Yeah, and I like the fact the drivers had to get up and just go. I like that. I will say I haven't seen either sprint race or sprint qualifying session live this season. I missed one at a football tournament. I missed yesterday's because I was out at the zoo all day having fun there. Yeah. But I got home having muted the F1 the admin chat. I muted the F1 group chat and I muted Tim because if something is going to spoil this for me, it's going to be one of those 3 things. We sat down and watched the repeat on Sky late at night. So we watched qualifying at 9:15, watched the sprint race at quarter past 10. And I have to say, I agree with Danny in the sense of it was quite weird watching it at that time, and I felt so wide awake after watching it. So I can understand how being an Asian fan trying to watch the sprint race and sprint qualifying would feel. So I get the time difference probably does make quite a difference. And if it was just a solo sprint race at qualifying time, it's easiest to keep track of rather than having sprint shootout and then sprint race. Maybe something could be done about tightening those times up and maybe just having an hour in between. That could maybe benefit Danny. Danny, do you think that's something that might work? If you said, all right, yeah, sprint race, same format, but there's only an hour between qualifying ending and sprint race starting, would that be more of an appeal to you?
Yeah, most definitely.
So interestingly, I'll admit it was on another podcast, but I think we should bring it up here. When they first introduced the idea of sprint races, the FIA wanted to basically do it as a reverse grid, and it was the teams who voted against the reverse grid based on the facts. And Mercedes used the bullshit excuse of safety about a faster car being behind a slower car. Based on how close qualifying now is, even with the Red Bulls, how close, I know Verstappen is still getting pole position, but how close the Ferraris are getting, how close the Aston Martins are getting on certain weekends, surely there should be a call to bring it back as a reverse grid format. if it's for next season.
It's not going to pass. That'd be a great idea though, but it's going to fall on Mercedes, phase.
But this is where the F1 teams probably have too much control over the format, because in MotoGP, for example, this year, every single race weekend has a sprint weekend. The MotoGP organisers told the teams in the MotoGP, this is what you're doing. You cannot appeal it, and every team has just got on with it.
I wish that they had that attitude to F1, but the F1 teams, it feels like they're so entitled and they bring so much money in.
It's because F1 teams in the Concord Agreement get a stay over changes to the race weekend format, so they have to consult them.
Okay, but saying that, if I were, say, Williams or a team that's going to finish bottom 10 anyway, that's not going to get any points, like 100%. If you turned around to me and said, unless you do this, like, you're not racing, I'd be like, I'm just going to stay in my car. I'm not racing, because surely with a sprint race, you're not legally obligated to race it, are you?
Well, you're meant to take part either way, but there have been times where you've had to withdraw from races. Logan Sargent had to withdraw from the Baku sprint because he binned it. But then again, I think that's another reason to push it closer together, because it adds that jeopardy in qualifying. So, we're going to see fewer cars in the sprint race. If you made the sprint points worth more and push qualifying closer together and up that risk factor, I think you would see, a limit. And you could say Max Verstappen or Charles Leclerc or Fernando Alonso make that little mistake in qualifying, could be all the difference in the championship, because he's pinged it. He's gone into the wall. He's having to replace the gearbox. He might not start the sprint race. Come the end of the season, he might have lost 10 points in the championship battle.
Just to pick up on what Dan was saying about the back markers, if you've got a Williams, a Williams, an Alfa Romeo, and an Alfa Tauri, let's say, it's the three worst cars, all three of them have had top 10 in regular qualifying this season. I think Joe's had a 10th, Albon's been in Q3, and Yuki's been in Q3. If they get a Q3 on a race weekend where the top 10 are reversed for the sprint race, if you're qualifying 9th or 10th, they're starting on the front row. The cars behind them are going to be maybe an Alpine and a McLaren, an Alpine and an Aston Martin, so they might not get dumped within the first lap. And that's a chance for them, especially if you open up the points a little bit more and made them worth more, to score real big points on a weekend, and also for their sponsors and for their people to be seen as competitive right at the front, and for them to show their skills at the front of a grid on a race start as well. I think that a reverse grid it's not going to be unsafe. The speed differentials are not that massive, and we've seen that with Mercedes and Red Bulls going through the field this season.
That and the fact that 95% of the drivers do know how to race wheel to wheel. Like, I'll let you dictate. I'll let you all do the maths and figure out who the one driver.
We're not going back there. We've already dissected 2021 in this podcast.
I wasn't talking about him actually. I was talking about the other Dutch one.
Oh, what, De Vries? Well, he's never gonna make a Q3 session, is he?
Well, don't be silly. He's gonna. If you do reverse grid, he's gonna be on pole position every race.
No, we're a top 10 reverse grid. Top 10 reverse.
It's sucked to be Haas though, wouldn't it? Because you probably make it into Q3 and then in two races. Well, like it is currently, 2 races out of 2, you'll end up sliding out the points.
Yeah, but realistically, if you were De Vries, you wouldn't be worried about sprint race qualifying Q3. You'd be worrying about 2024 and whether you're fucking driving. You wouldn't have to worry about the rest.
I mean, this is one of those ones where a high pressure point of the season, the helmet Marco has come out and said that Christian Horner was right, and Christian Horner didn't want De Vries. He did, and Christian was right.
But Franz Tost didn't want De Vries, and Helmut Marko also said he had his reservations. So who actually wanted De Vries?
Helmut Marko wanted De Vries, but he's one of those people who can't admit he's wrong, can he?
Because we all know that Franz Tost wanted Mick Schumacher, and we know that Christian Horner wanted Colton Herta, but they couldn't get the super license.
That's all true, but the truth is that Helmut Marko will argue anything if he feels strongly enough about it. He could feel that he could feel like he lost his right eye rather than his left eye, and argue that he actually still had his left eye and didn't have his right eye. That's the sort of person he is. He could argue anything off the face of the earth, that man, as he has on many occasions.
I have a toddler that is similar to Helmet, and she doesn't like to give up either. But I'll be honest. I think man turning up in his race suit this weekend is he's kind of tormenting De Vries, say like just keep slipping up. I'm just gonna jump in and show you how it's done.
I wasn't sure if that was for De Vries or for Perez before this weekend, actually.
Oh,
After this weekend, it could be for Sonoda.
No, Yuki's got the love of that team, doesn't he?
You
got
say
the
that.
human element.
You say that. I reckon if Lance Stroll were to really fall off in form, I reckon that Honda would really lobby for Sonoda in that car. If Iwasa didn't become available, because I think Iwasa's another one 2026, who you could say Japanese driver could be in the shout of an F1 seat with a Honda engine.
Who do we think will be at AlphaTauri next season? Should we go around two drivers off the top of your head?
I think it all depends on super license points. Does Hauger or
I think it could be Lawson. I think it could be Lawson and Iwasa, which I'm really excited about.
What Lawson? Yeah, I think Lawson's another shout. Actually, I forgot about Lawson. Lawson. Depends where Yuki is. If Yuki's still there, if Yuki wants to have the seat there next season, I think Yuki's got a seat there next season.
I think Yuki's in Perez's seat.
No, Perez has got another year on that deal.
Live breaking news on the podcast from our.
It's just gone up live 3 minutes ago.
Oh, what's happened here?
The updated list of the Austrian Grand Prix and the penalties.
Okay, hold on. Where?
Should we take a break and then
what
come
source?
back and discuss this?
What?
FIA.
The FIA. FIA website, Reese.
FIA website. Okay, boys, let's get this up.
Oh no, Carlos has definitely been dumped.
Don't do this too. Don't you? No. FIA. Was it FIA.com?
Yeah. FIA.com. I tell you what. I'll send you the links just to save you having a stroke.
Save me having a stroke, mate. Oh no.
So slow today.
This is when we find out nothing's actually changed and he's having us all on. Reese, what are you doing?
I'm trying to get it. I've got it on the iPad next to.
Right, I'm opening Daniel's link.
I'm expecting to get Rick rolled here.
You're hoping you get Rick rolled.
All I'm doing is sharing the post that they've just put up, leaving the chat multiple time infringements PDF that the FIA put out.
I'm just going to say I got really confused and excited at one moment because all I saw was number 1 Sainz, number 2 Hamilton, number 3 Gasly. I was like, oh, get in. I was like, oh, hang on, no, this isn't right.
No, so is this the list of 10-second penalties after the race?
5 and 10-second penalties.
Oh my god. Shall we read?
De Vries got these are additional penalties. So Sainz 10 seconds, Hamilton 10 seconds, Gasly 10 seconds, Albon 10 seconds, Ocon 5, 10, 5, 10. Oh my goodness. Ocon has got 30 seconds worth of penalties. Logan Sargent got 10. Nick De Vries has got another 15 seconds. And Sonoda got another 5. So, okay, Danny, in answer to your question, it goes 5, 10, 5, 10. My God.
My goodness me.
Norris and Alonso move up.
Hang on. Let's get let's get this up. All right, I'm going to do some live working out here. First of all, I'm going to say it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. Once again, Sainz has been robbed like he was in Abu Dhabi 2021. And I will
Stop
believe that.
Stop bringing up 2021.
Hey, look, I will always bring up that was Sainz's first race win. I don't care what
it was.
says.
It was Sainz's first race from Rob.
So Sainz will drop down 10 seconds, which puts him behind Alonso. Hamilton will drop down.
Russell.
Sainz goes down. So your race order: Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Norris, Alonso, Sainz. Then Hamilton got another 10 seconds, which puts him down behind Russell. So Russell, Hamilton, Gasly, Stroll.
That's your top 10.
Then Albon got 10 seconds. So that I don't know what difference. No, Albon will stay 11th because of the +1 lap. Then it gets really confusing though.
Wait, you forgot Gasly's penalty. Gasly gets penalized.
Gasly didn't get a penalty.
Yes, he did.
Oh, he did. Oh, yeah, Gasly got 10. So Gasly goes behind
Does
Stroll.
Gasly go behind?
Behind Stroll. So yeah, it goes Russell, Hamilton, Stroll, Gasly,
Yeah.
Ocon.
No. Really?
I don't. Oh no. Well, Ocon and
Ocon's
Ocon
got
won't.
30 seconds, so Ocon.
And
Where's-
Albon has a 10. Albon has a 10.
Albon has 10, but he finished a lap ahead, so I don't know how that's going to work out.
Sargent is 11th.
Does Sargent get a point?
No,
he
Sargent
just
won't know
missed
because he finished a lap down, didn't he?
On the track, even though Sargent's a lap down, because a 10-second penalty will put Albon a lap down, because it's a minute and 15-second lap in a race car.
But Albon's 11th.
Yeah, but
How-
you've got. Where's Ocon?
How do I find
Ocon
it-
finished outside of the points, don't worry.
How do I find the F1 result without the +1 lap? I want to see how many seconds behind.
Right, don't worry. We got the top 10 because we know that Albon's penalty would not take him out of the top 10. So I think that's our top 10 what you just listed.
So
Sargent's best finish. Talking about Sargent earlier.
No,
Yeah.
Sargent was still, I think it depends how close Joe was, whether he finishes, whether it goes Albon.
Ocon to 14.
Oh,
Ocon
because
to
he got a
13.
penalty too.
Yeah.
Logan got a penalty. Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
So Joe's finishes 11th.
Joe might finish. I don't know because it depends how close Albon and Joe were, which we can't tell. Oh no, sorry. Depends how close Sargent and Joe were. Of course, De Vries as well. Bottas, Piastri. The odds are that Magnussen didn't finish last, but I can't tell. What the actual classification was. If we go, oh man, this is so confusing. FIA.
Have we got any
Classification.
opinions on this? Because I feel like this is fully valid. If they've gone through every lap and seen every single lap, then this is what they've come up with.
Well,
and I think this is correct.
The FIA has also said that they haven't been able to review every instance of track violations.
Well, they've just
Right, here we go.
issued 83 deleted laps.
Ha.
83
I've got
deleted
it.
laps.
I've got it. Okay, so Alex Albon remains 11th.
Wow.
Ocon will be on a total lap time of 1 hour 26:15, which puts him behind Zhou Guanyu, just ahead of Valtteri, behind Zhou Guanyu and Logan Sargent. So it will go out. It goes Albon, Zhou, Sargent, Ocon,
De Vries,
Bottas, De Vries, Piastri, and then Magnussen, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg.
What a mess.
So to give you a full race classification, Max Verstappen wins from Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Zhou Guanyu, Logan Sargent remains 13th. Then it's Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas, Nick De Vries is behind or ahead of Oscar. How many penalties did De Vries get? Man, this is such a mess. De Vries got 15 seconds, so then it will actually mean that is
They're all in Canada.
Piastri ahead of De Vries. Then it's De Vries, Magnussen, Tsunoda last. My gosh, what a mess that is. You know what, lads? I know we were talking about, how's the best way of doing this. Tim, fuck the motorbikes, stick some gravel in.
Well done, Aston Martin, for getting us the correct race result, and well done their drivers for not acquiring any penalties.
I don't even know if that's correct. The thing is, they'll probably go, "Oh shit, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong."
No, well done, Aston Martin.
Well done, Aston Martin.
They clearly spotted that the FIA were not doing this correctly, and the Aston Martin have done their job for them.
Damn it, where were Aston Martin in 2021? Why couldn't you be? Why'd you have to be shit back then? Why?
They were scrambling through their car design ideas back then, trying to copy Mercedes or Red Bull.
I just remember when someone said that Vettel was going to win the championship that year in the Aston Martin. Does anyone remember which member of the pod said that?
I remember someone might have said that.
Who was it, Dan?
Might have been me.
Yeah. So I remember how Tim sent me a message on Facebook as soon as the car dropped, going, virtuoso tunnels, that's going to be the car that wins the championship. I was like, Tim, I think you might be a bit excited here. Anyway, we're going to have to wrap it up because finally we've figured out the order of this race. So congratulations, Max Verstappen, on winning again. It's hardly a surprise, but well done not getting any time penalties. That's the real achievement. Ferrari, well, of course, we've learned once again you're completely useless, and Aston Martin, we've learned you're not. So until next time, if you've enjoyed what you've listened to, check out the link in the bio of the podcast, all our socials, all our chats. Thank you very much for listening. Cheerio, guys.
Bye, guys.
See you.
See you later, guys.